Rare coin collecting. Discover real value and history in every coin.
It's the 1959 D Roosevelt dime, a small, 10-cent piece that most people overlook as just another old coin. Yet it hides a secret that can transform pocket change into something worth $1,586, $2,880, or even more at auction. This isn't just a dime. It's a sliver of 90% pure silver, struck at a time when America's coins were still made of real precious metal. It's a survivor of an era that was coming to an end. The last decade before silver was stripped from circulation forever. The year 1959 was a time of optimism in America. The post-war boom was in full swing. People were buying new homes, new cars, and new televisions. Dimes like this one jingled in every pocket, spent on newspapers, gas, and ice cream. Nobody gave them a second thought. Yet within just a few years, everything would change. By 1965, the US government would end all silver coinage for circulation, replacing these bright white coins with cheaper copper-nickel versions. That shift made every pre-1965 silver coin a relic of history, and suddenly, the humble 1959 D Roosevelt dime became part of a vanished world. The Denver Mint struck about 165 million of these coins, a massive number, but here's where the contradiction appears. Millions were melted for their silver. Millions more were spent into oblivion, and only a tiny percentage survive in pristine, untouched condition. In average circulated shape, this dime is worth only a few dollars. Its melt value, hovering around $3.70 depending on silver prices. But collectors aren't just after metal. They chase perfection, and perfection in the 1959 D Roosevelt dime is rare. The Roosevelt dime series is famous for its detail, especially the torch on the reverse, where fine lines cross both vertically and horizontally. When those lines, called full bands, are crisp and unbroken, the coin achieves a special status, full bands designation. These are the dimes that set records. Finding a 1959 D with razor-sharp detail, no scratches, no blemishes, and that full band strike is like finding a needle in a haystack. Such a coin, graded MS67 full bands, can easily bring hundreds or even thousands at auction. The best examples pushing past $20,800. And those numbers are climbing as more collectors realize just how tough perfect silver dimes are to find. But there's another side of the hunt, the error side, the mysterious world that makes coin collecting so thrilling. Among the 1959 D dimes, specialists have identified subtle doubled die errors, coins where the die struck the design slightly misaligned, creating faint doubling on the date, lettering, or even Roosevelt's profile. Most people would never notice it with the naked eye. But under magnification, those tiny distortions tell a bigger story. A human story of overworked mint workers, small missteps, and quality control slips that slipped through unnoticed. These double dies, or repunched mint mark, RPM, varieties, where the D was punched more than once, are like fingerprints of a chaotic moment in the Denver Mint's production process. And because of that, they're extremely collectible. A well-defined 1959 D RPM can easily sell for hundreds. And if the doubling is bold or dramatic, collectors will pay far more. So how can you tell if your dime is just silver or something extraordinary? Start with the basics. Check the edge. A true 1959 D should have a solid white edge with no copper stripe. That proves it's silver. Then look closely under a magnifying glass at the date, 1959, and the letters in God We Trust. If you see faint shadows or a doubled outline, you might be holding a doubled die. Next, turn it over. Study the torch in the center. Those horizontal and vertical lines are your key. If they're sharp and complete, you might be looking at a full bands coin, a conditional rarity that could be worth far beyond its silver weight. Now consider this. These coins weren't made for collectors. They were made for spending, tossed into tills and vending machines, used and forgotten. That's what makes surviving gems so special. A flawless dime from 1959 isn't just lucky, it's a time capsule. But there's another layer of fascination. This coin carries the image of Franklin D. Roosevelt, one of America's most influential presidents. The man who led the nation through the Great Depression and World War II. His face on this coin isn't just symbolic, it's historical. It reminds us of resilience, recovery, and leadership during some of America's darkest days. Holding a 1959 D Roosevelt dime is in a way holding a piece of that legacy. So what should you do if you find one? Don't rush to sell it. First, examine it carefully. Then, if it looks clean, undamaged, and especially if it shows full bands or any doubling, get it graded by a trusted professional service like PCGS or NGC. That certification can make the difference between a few dollars and a few thousand. And here's where it gets even better. These coins can still show up in the most unexpected places. You might find them in old coin jars, inherited collections, silver proof sets, or even tucked away in your grandparents' drawers. The thrill is real, because the next coin you pick up could turn out to be a hidden treasure. So the next time you come across a 1959D Roosevelt dime, remember, it's not just a dime, it's a survivor from a vanished silver era, a piece of American history, and possibly a hidden jackpot waiting to be discovered. And before you go, if you love stories like this, real American coin mysteries, forgotten treasures, and the thrill of uncovering hidden value, then support our journey by subscribing to Hidden Gold Hunter. Every view, like, and share helps us continue to explore the lost wealth of everyday coins. Who knows? The next story might be about the coin sitting right in your pocket right now. It's the 1957D Roosevelt dime, a 10-cent coin that most people would spend without a second thought. Yet this tiny, silver piece can be worth up to $2,280 at auction. That's right, a single dime, struck in Denver nearly 70 years ago, could secretly be a small fortune disguised as pocket change. The 1957D Roosevelt dime is more than just 10 cents. It's a glimmer of American history, a relic from the final shining years of silver coinage, and a coin that tells a powerful story of perfection, controversy, and hidden value. Minted at the Denver Mint, this dime carries the small D mint mark just to the left of the torch on the reverse. Like all dimes struck before 1965, it's made of 90% silver and 10% copper, giving it both weight and purity. Even in worn condition, it holds a melt value of around $3 to $4 simply for its silver content. But collectors know the true value of this coin doesn't come from its metal, it comes from its condition. Because in the world of numismatics, perfection is everything, and the 1957D dime is a battleground for that perfection. Flip your dime over, and you'll see the torch flanked by olive and oak branches, symbolizing peace and strength. The key to unlocking its highest value lies in one microscopic feature, the two horizontal bands wrapped around that torch. These bands might look ordinary, but they're at the heart of one of the most heated grading debates in American coin history. If those bands are fully struck, sharply defined, and completely separated with no blurring or weakness, your dime qualifies for the coveted full bands designation, and that's where the value explodes. A typical uncirculated 1957D dime without full bands might sell for $20 to $30, but a flawless full bands, example graded MS67FB, can bring in over $1,000, sometimes reaching or exceeding $2,000 in top condition. Imagine a coin worth 10 cents when it was minted, now commanding thousands, just because of how cleanly the metal filled a microscopic groove during striking. That's the beauty and obsession of coin collecting. In 1957, the Denver Mint was producing coins at record speed. The machinery was old, the dies were overused, and the result was often a weak strike. Most coins didn't fully capture the tiny details of the design, so a dime with those crisp, separated bands is a true survivor, a coin that came out almost perfect despite the odds. This led to decades of debate among collectors and grading companies. What truly counts as full bands? How sharp is sharp enough? Major grading services like PCGS and NGC often disagree on that definition, creating a storm of controversy. One expert's full bands dime might be rejected by another, and that tiny disagreement can shift a coin's value by hundreds or even thousands of dollars. The 1957D dime holds even more mysteries. Beyond strike quality, you should look for rare mint errors that can increase its worth dramatically. Check the date and the letters like Liberty and In God We Trust. If they appear faintly doubled, like a shadow effect, you might have a doubled die dime. These are rare and can bring hundreds of dollars depending on visibility. Examine the D mint mark closely. If you see what looks like a faint second D underneath or slightly beside it, that's a repunched mint mark. caused by the mint mark being punched twice during production. These small imperfections are like the fingerprints of the minting process, and they make your dime even more special. Some 1957D dimes also show small raised lines or blobs of metal, known as die cracks or cuds, formed when the minting die itself began to wear or break. Each one is unique, and collectors love them because they represent one-of-a-kind minting events. The 1957D dime also sits at the edge of a turning point in US monetary history. Just 8 years later, in 1965, the government would remove silver from circulating coins altogether, replacing it with cheaper metals. That means your 1957D dime isn't just rare for its strike or condition, it's one of the last witnesses to an era when American coins were made of real silver. It's a physical reminder of a time when money felt like money. Each time you hold one, you're touching a piece of that fading legacy. A little disc of silver that once jingled in pockets during the Eisenhower years, when gas was 24 cents a gallon and Elvis Presley was on the radio. Collectors today chase these coins not only for their silver, but for their story. The Roosevelt dime series is one of the most studied in American numismatics, and the 1957D stands out as a classic example of how tiny minting details can transform an everyday coin into a coveted rarity. The thrill is in the hunt, the magnifying glass, the flashlight, the slow inspection of every letter and band line. That's how legends are found. If you've got a 1957D dime, here's what to do. Flip it under bright light and look closely at the two horizontal bands on the torch. Are they clearly separated? If yes, you might have a full bands dime. Examine the D mint mark for signs of doubling or repunching. Use a 10x magnifier to check the date and motto for double die features. Don't clean it. Cleaning a coin destroys its collector value instantly. Your dime could be one of the very few that climbed from 10 cents to over $2,000, and only professional verification can confirm it. So next time you see a silver dime glinting in a coin jar or an old drawer, don't ignore it. You might be holding a tiny silver treasure, a 1957D Roosevelt dime that hides a history of perfection, controversy, and silver-era beauty. It's not just 10 cents. It's a fragment of America's silver age, and if you're lucky, it could be worth over $2,000. It's the 1959p Roosevelt dime, a small silver coin that might look like pocket change, but in the right condition, it can reach an astonishing $2,760 at auction. That's right, a 10-cent coin struck over 60 years ago in Philadelphia could secretly be a four-figure treasure, hiding in plain sight. This coin marks a defining chapter in the history of US coinage, struck at the Philadelphia Mint with no mint mark. The 1959p dime belongs to the final golden age of American silver coinage. Each piece contains 90% silver and 10% copper, a blend that gives it both brilliance and enduring value. While most people see it as a simple silver dime worth its melt value, around $3 to $4, collectors know there's a much deeper story beneath the surface. The real magic of the 1959p dime lies in its strike quality and condition. Turn the coin over, and you'll see the torch between an olive branch and an oak branch, the timeless design symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. Look closely at the two horizontal bands wrapped around the torch. They might seem like a small design detail, but those bands determine whether your dime is ordinary or extraordinary. When both sets of bands are completely separated and sharply defined, the coin earns the elite full bands designation, a mark of perfection that can multiply its value dramatically. Most 1959 dimes were weakly struck. The Philadelphia Mint's equipment was aging, and dies were used well past their prime. Because of this, the sharp, crisp band detail that defines full bands is rarely seen on these coins. Even in brilliant uncirculated condition, the majority show soft or incomplete band separations. That's why a dime that achieves the full bands designation in grades like MS66 or MS67 becomes a collector's dream, while a regular, mint-state example might sell for $10.25. A top-graded full bands dime can bring hundreds to thousands of dollars, depending on its grade and eye appeal. But it doesn't stop there. Some 1959p dimes carry subtle minting flaws, errors that elevate them to legendary status. Watch for double die varieties, where the date or lettering appears faintly doubled under magnification. These mistakes happened during the die hubbing process, when the design was accidentally impressed twice. The doubling may be subtle, but collectors pay high premiums for clear examples. Another rarity is the die clash, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a plancher between them, leaving faint outlines of one side's design on the other. And of course, there are repunched mint mark (RPM) errors. Though Philadelphia coins had no mint mark that year, other die variations and striking anomalies still add to the thrill of the hunt. Each 1959p dime tells a story of precision, imperfection, and silver's final glory days. These coins were minted during an era when the US economy was booming, yet rising silver prices were quietly creating tension within the mint. Within just a few years, that tension would boil over, and by 1965, silver would be permanently removed from circulating coins. That makes every 1959 dime a true piece of American history, a silver survivor from an age that would soon vanish forever. To spot one of these valuable pieces in your own collection, follow a few steps. First, check the edge. It should appear completely silver, with no copper stripe visible. That confirms it's one of the 90% silver dimes. Next, examine the reverse torch using a magnifier or strong light. If both sets of horizontal bands, the upper and lower ones, are crisp, fully separated, and show no weakness, you might have a full band's dime. Then, inspect the date and lettering for any signs of doubling or odd metal distortions. Don't clean the coin, as even a light polish can destroy thousands in potential value. If your dime looks promising, submit it for professional grading through a trusted service, like PCGS or NGC. A certified grade of MS66, full bands or higher instantly pushes it into the high-value tier, where auction houses and advanced collectors compete fiercely. Even coins with attractive toning, those rainbow-like hues caused by decades of silver oxidation, can fetch premium prices. Now here's the exciting part for treasure hunters. You can still find these coins in the wild. Check old change jars, inherited coin collections, estate sales, and thrift store donations. Many silver dimes were saved in rolls or jars during the coinage transition in the 1960s, and it's not uncommon to find a 1959 dime that's been forgotten for decades. Some people unknowingly keep small fortunes in drawers or coffee cans. When you do find one, remember this. You're not just holding a 10-cent coin, you're holding a tiny piece of American silver history. The 1959p Roosevelt dime captures the end of an era, the tension between mass production and perfection, and the beauty of silver that once defined US money. So, take a closer look at that dime in your collection. It could be worth its weight in silver, or it could be one of the rare few worth over 2700s, a glimmering reminder that history and fortune can fit in the palm of your hand. The 1955D Roosevelt dime carries a story of rarity, foresight, and collector passion. It represents a moment when silver, scarcity, and history came together to create one of the most interesting coins in the Roosevelt dime series. Your 1955D dime was struck at the Denver Mint and, like all dimes of that era, contains 90% silver. This alone guarantees a base value tied to its metal content, about $4 to $5 in circulated condition. But its real worth lies beyond the silver. It comes from a combination of low mintage, collector behavior, and the pursuit of a perfect strike. In 1955, the US Mint experienced an unusual year. Production numbers were low across all denominations, and attention was drawn to the famous 1955 doubled die Lincoln Cent from Philadelphia. That dramatic era coin dominated headlines, pushing other 1955 issues, including the dimes, into the background. What went largely unnoticed was that the Denver Mint struck fewer than 14 million dimes that year. That number made the 1955D the third lowest mintage in the entire silver Roosevelt dime series. Only the Philadelphia and San Francisco dimes from the same year were scarcer. Collectors quickly recognized this limited production and began saving rolls of 1955D dimes in anticipation of future demand. Ironically, this mass hoarding changed the coin's destiny. While it remained a low mintage issue, the abundance of preserved rolls kept prices from soaring. What could have been a key rarity became a study in market dynamics. scarce in mintage, but common in mint state. Still, not all 1955D dimes are equal. The true challenge lies in condition and strike quality. On the reverse, the torch in the center holds the key to top-tier value. The two narrow horizontal bands across, the torch must be sharply defined and fully separated to earn the full bands or full torch designation. These fine details indicate a strong, precise strike. The 1955D is generally well struck, which means more examples display full bands compared to earlier years. Yet finding one in flawless mint state, 67 or higher condition remains extremely rare. Small marks, light friction, or weak details can instantly drop its grade and value. Market data shows this clearly. A standard uncirculated 1955D dime trades between $20 and $50, but a superb example with full bands can bring hundreds, even thousands at auction. In top condition, values have reached over $5,000 for coins, graded MS67FB, by major grading services like PCGS or NGC. This price gap between average and elite coins shows what collectors truly value: precision, beauty, and survival. Each 1955D dime tells two stories, one of mass preservation and another of the hunt for perfection. For collectors today, owning a full band specimen is not just about silver or mintage. It's about holding a piece of 1950s mint history, saved by foresight and prized for excellence.